Fantastic. Thank you ever so much for doing this. It's very kind of you.
No problem. Thank you for inviting me.
Just sounded like such an amazing story. So let's start. Tell us about yourself, Chantel. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
So my name's Chantel. I'm 31 and I grew up in the city of Peterborough in Cambridgeshire. And I'm currently a Stoat Detection, it's a bit of a long title, Stoat Detection Dog Handler Team Lead.
It's the best title we're ever going to have for any of our episodes, I think. Fantastic. And what did your parents do? Were they into conservation?
So my mum worked in care. So my parents have not worked in the conservation sector at all. I really got my inspiration from my grandmother. She grew up in North India. And she used to always tell me stories about the wildlife when she was growing up. And my weekends were always full of going into her house, and she'd always have wildlife documentaries on and tell me incredible stories of what it was like in India. So she really inspired me. She was always the one that was asking me to come out in the garden and look at the creatures in the garden, and always encouraging us to go out and see the full moon. So definitely got my inspiration from my late grandmother.
So what age did you start thinking about it was it always something you wanted to do?
Yeah, from a very young age. I would say probably from when I was about 4 or 5, I definitely wanted to work with animals, but I found it really difficult to know what jobs were out there. And it wasn't until I got into the stages of going into university that I realised how wide ranging the conservation sector is. Because initially growing up, I just thought you could really work in a zoo, be a ranger or be a vet. So I wanted to go down the route of being a veterinarian. Turns out I'm absolutely rubbish at science. So wasn't successful in doing that at all.
So how did you get started then? What was your way in after uni? You did conservation at uni, did you?
I did, yeah. I did an undergraduate degree at the University of Kent in Canterbury, and then I did my master's in Aberdeen. And following my master's, I got a job with the RSPB as a membership development officer. So I did that for about a year and a half. And I found it really difficult to progress from that role, and found it really, really hard at the beginning to get involved in the sector. So I actually went back and worked in hospitality for quite a few years, and then managed to get back in the sector when I started working with Froglife.
And was it difficult to get into it in a sort of, I guess, an operational way, because there is so much demand for those jobs? Is it really competitive?
Yeah, it's very restricting. I think the sector's starting to change that a little bit more with the projects that are out there now. It's very restricting for working class backgrounds, because a lot of the time to get involved in the conservation sector, you need a lot of volunteering experience behind you. You need a lot of, they say, tickets. So things like Great Crested Newt license, your bat license, chainsaw license, various things like that, which are really, really expensive and hard to get if you're sort of from working class background. So I think the sector's trying to be a bit more inclusive like that now, and trying to encourage more people to get into the sector. And I think they've really recognised that as a bit of a fault with trying to get started.
Oh, I've never heard of that before then. So you have to get a ticket. What does it mean? You go on a little course and you get a sort of certificate at the end? Is that
some of them are just sort of day courses or weekend courses, and other times you will have to go out and survey throughout the year and then repeat that the next year to be able to get some of your licenses.
All right.
And then you are a lot more attractive to hire. So
did you do that? Have you got your chainsaw badge or whatever it is?
With thanks to Froglife, who were such a supportive organisation really early on in my career. They really, really encouraged me to do quite a lot when I was there. So I managed to get chainsaw license, brush cutter license, and my Great Crested Newt license while I was there as well.
So I should love it. It just sounds fantastic. It's just great titles, don't you think, Bears?
Yeah, great.
Have you got a Great Crested Newt license? Yeah. What does it allow you to do once you've got a Great Crested Newt?
So there are protected species in the UK and across Europe. So it just means that I can survey them, because it is against the law to disturb them, to disturb any of their breeding sites, to disturb the habitat they're in and things as well. So it just means I can happily survey them or do any training to try and build up people's knowledge of Great Crested Newts as well.
I made a little pond in my garden. I've got
fantastic.
they've got a kind of orange. Is it orange belly or spotted belly? What's that?
So it could be
on
a great crested newt, and it could also be a smooth newt. They both have spotted bellies. Are they more black in colour on the top?
Yeah.
Yeah, great crested newts you have. That's fantastic.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't disturb them.
I mustn't move them.
Oh, you're breaking the law.
I realised at first, I thought everyone I found was dead, but I realised that's their incredibly ineffective defensive system.
Yeah.
Pretend to be dead. So it's dead. But then you look a minute later and it's just gone.
That's great. You're getting quite a lot of wildlife in the garden since building the pond.
Well, yeah. But unfortunately, the idea they always tell you on gardening programs is if you have things like newts and hedgehogs and so on, that will keep down all of your slugs and snails. That's the idea. But yeah.
Unfortunately, you've got to learn to live with slugs, I think.
Yeah. Well, or just not even bother trying to grow any veg. That seems to be the conclusion I'm gradually coming to.
Some sacrificial plants, maybe.
Yes, I've tried chrysanthemums. I think they particularly like. So you started off at Froglife then. Tell us a bit about that. Another wonderful title, Froglife.
It is, definitely. I get called the Frog Lady quite a lot from working in that role. I started off as a learning officer there. So we used to take out vulnerable and disadvantaged young children from Peterborough and the Fenland area and take them out and do wildlife sessions and things with them. And then I got a position with them as their reserve warden and trainer. So I managed 3 nature reserves. One of those had the largest great crested newt population in Europe. So that was a very, very fun experience, getting to bumble around the nature reserve.
So what is it? Is a nature reserve in Peterborough, outside Peterborough?
It's inside Peterborough. It's a fairly new nature reserve. It used to be an old brick pit. That closed down in the early 90s. And when they were building the new housing estate across the road from the reserve, they discovered thousands of newts, frogs, toads, and things like that. So they translocated them to the old brick pit and opened it up as a nature reserve. And quite entertaining. There is a newt wall across the whole of the reserve to make sure the newts don't get out.
Oh, right. And is that just a standard wall, or does it have to be something?
It's quite a short wall. It's just a concrete wall.
They don't climb. They can't climb.
No,
wall.
They don't do too well at walls. Okay. No, not that we've discovered yet. You never know. Things might change. We're finding toads in trees now, so you never know.
Gosh, as you're probably slowly becoming aware, we're very much not experts in wildlife, are we, Baz?
Or anything.
So from Froglife, did you go straight to where you are now, or was there some?
I did, because I thought I was sitting in my dream job. I've always wanted to work on a nature reserve, so I thought I was sitting on my dream job, and then came across this incredible position in Orkney, applied, not thinking I would get it at all, and I had to come here and take this opportunity.
So tell us what happened. You saw the advert and you decided, I've got to go.
Yeah, definitely. And I was very surprised that I managed to get the position. I have worked with dogs in the past, but more in the capacity of people's sort of pet dogs. I used to do training of pet dogs and sort of dog walking and things during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I was very surprised. I've never worked in the capacity of teaching other handlers or working with working dogs in particular. So I was very surprised that I got the position, and I moved here in August. I completed a course down south in Southport, near Liverpool. I did a conservation detection dog course before I moved up here, and then started this position in August.
What did the interview entail? Did you go up to the Orkneys for that, or was it online? Or?
It was all online, and I had to prepare some videos of me doing various things with some dogs. So I used my own dog, which is, I've got an old-time bulldog, very much not a working dog. I also have a French bulldog. So I did videos with my old-time bulldog, just doing some basic obedience. And my friend has an incredible Belgian Malinois cross Dutch Shepherd. So I did some training with her as well for my videos, and then had to put together a training plan for the interview as well.
Okay. So was the Orkneys something that appealed? I mean, on the one side, there's the job, but also there's the moving to compared to Peterborough, relatively remote island. Was that something you'd always wanted to do? Was that what part of the appeal?
Yeah, so I moved to Scotland for just a brief time, for just under a year when I did my master's. I lived up in Angus near Aberdeen, and I absolutely fell in love with Scotland. It was just so incredible that you take 15-minute drive and you're at a beach that you don't see another soul. Another 15-minute drive in the middle of the Cairngorms National Park. So I'm not a big fan of other people. I find them a bit of an inconvenience. So I definitely wanted to move somewhere a little bit more remote and have a bit of a more laid back lifestyle as well.
So how have you found it being there, and what sort of differences are there to living in Cambridgeshire?
Well, Amazon Prime is not a thing here.
Okay.
Don't do next day deliveries because it won't turn up in time. It's not as remote as people think. I've got a Tesco, a Lidl, and a Co-op just down the road. But I'm absolutely surrounded by beautiful white sand beaches, and I think it's the sea that has me in awe most days. I can't believe how crystal clear and blue the sea is. It's one of the best places in the UK for diving. It's really amazing for snorkeling, and just the lifestyle here. It's very different. I've always been an outdoor person, but just this island just makes you seem to want to just go out and enjoy the weather. When we do get the good weather days, you just want to take full advantage of the good weather days. And at the moment, with the summer solstice yesterday, we're getting some really, really light evenings. It's not getting dark really much at all. We get a couple of hours darkness.
Really?
Yeah, so it's quite nice. You can be out and doing things in the evening. It's a really active place to live.
Amazing. And how is it sort of with people and things? Are they quite welcoming to English coming up and moving to the area?
Yeah, they are very welcoming, definitely. And I'm a big fan of the accent. It's very soft spoken, almost sounds sort of Norwegian. They have been very welcoming up here. Most of the people on the project that I work, though, have moved here for the job. And that's been really nice that we've all been kind of in the same boat. And it's helped us to develop not just good working relationships, but friendships as well, because we've all moved up here for the same thing. And I would say one of the best things about being here is the roads. There's no roundabouts, no traffic lights. It's just a really nice, easy place to go for a drive. You can really relax when you're driving and not worry about traffic.
You can park anywhere, I imagine. Yeah.
And obviously the wildlife is probably, the thing why people come up here and visit, and why it's such a popular place for tourists to come as well.
So what kind of things can people see?
Raptor wise, we've got white-tailed eagles, golden eagles, hen harriers, short-eared owls. Marine life is incredible as well. We've got things like fin whales that swim by. There was actually a blue whale a couple of weeks ago. We get a pod of orcas that come very regularly. You see dolphins really regularly. And quite often when I go out paddleboarding, I'm joined by many seals that like to follow along as well. Yeah.
Oh, it just sounds heavenly. Yeah. So, well, the obvious next question is then, are you going to stay? Will you ever be able to move away?
I do miss being here when I leave the island. It's so difficult to get off the island sometimes when the ferries are cancelled or the flights are cancelled. And you usually have to use a 2 days holiday just to travel somewhere to get off the island. But once you leave the island, you just actually can't wait to return. I went back down south for a holiday and a few friends' weddings recently, and I was really excited to get back.
Well, I'm very jealous. So can you tell us a little bit about the actual job? You did a bit of training for using dogs for detection, yeah?
Yeah, so I did a two week course before I came up here, so not a huge amount of experience. It's definitely been a learning on the job kind of opportunity.
But the main word is Stoat. Then this is the project that you're embarked on.
Yeah.
So we start with what's the problem that they are an invasive species and damaging what?
Yeah, so stoats they are a type of musculid, so they're cousins of like ferrets and weasels, and they were discovered on the island about I think it was about 10 years ago. They were first discovered, and I think they came over in cargo. And they are native on mainland Scotland, but not native on the islands. The islands have not really known any large predators at all, so they don't know how to really adapt to it. So stoats have been eating a lot of wader eggs, diving bird eggs, and seabird eggs. And then they've also been eating the endemic species that we have here that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world, which is the Orkney vole. And they have been predating on those in huge numbers. So it's been affecting quite a lot of bird species directly through them eating their eggs, but it's also affecting things indirectly. For example, things like the golden eagle and the hen harriers and the short-eared owls are actually being affected as well, because their normal prey animal would be the Orkney vole. So they've got huge competition for prey now. So it's been affecting quite a lot of the wildlife on Orkney. And then that also affects the Orkney itself, because it's so reliant on tourism. So we're a bit worried that it might affect kind of the industries and things here as well.
Gosh, what an enormous knock-on effect from one little vole. If you remove that, then... So, gosh, they exploded, did they? From one breeding couple came over, and from that they've filled the island?
The Orkney Native Wildlife Project started in 2019. And so far, so we don't know how many stoats are on the island, and we don't know how many stoats came to the island, but we have removed over 6,000 since 2019 already. And just from the 1st of June this month, we've already caught 43 just in 3 weeks. So we don't really know the numbers at the moment because it's such a new project, and it's actually the first of its kind and the largest of its kind in an inhabited island. And we actually do have the first European stoat detection dog team. So it's all very new. So everything that we're doing, it's new methodologies, trialing new things. So we're always learning from it as well.
Right. That's an incredible number.
Scary number.
Isn't it? Yeah. Wow. So, do you think they're still at that sort of number? That they're still at a similar number, or do you think that they've managed to reduce it drastically?
So we're at the point now. We are monitoring and collecting loads of data to be able to make these comparisons at the moment. It's been very quiet this year, so we weren't too sure on whether the way that it was being very quiet, that we weren't catching many stoats, was due to just the change in the weather. Everything's taken a little bit longer to get started this year, or whether it was to do with the fact that we have made a significant difference in the stoat numbers. And things are just starting to get busy now. But compared to previous years, we are definitely seeing noticeable changes. We have hotspots on the island that are very well known for where the stoats seem to like to travel to. And these hotspots are really, really good because they are along the coast, which usually stoats will head to the coast as soon as they get to an island. They will head for a coastline, and it's got exceptional habitat and huge amounts of food there for them. So we know where these hotspots are, and we're already noticing difference in these hotspots. The numbers are declining, thankfully.
Pardon my ignorance of geography, but Orkney is a number of smaller islands. You're on the main part, are you?
Yeah, so Orkney is an archipelago, and I think it's about 70 islands make up Orkney.
And are they on all of those?
No, so the stoats have only been found thankfully on mainland and on the linked isles. And the big part of the project is the biosecurity as well. So we're trying to prevent stoats from colonising any of the new islands, because they've been known to swim about 3 kilometres.
Wow.
So we've got a big part of the project as well is the biosecurity side of things too.
Goodness me. And are they're everywhere else, are they? Across all the other sort of Scottish islands, not the Orkneys, but sort of Stornoway, all that sort of, what's that, Hebrides? Are they on those?
No, there is also another project called Biosecurity for Life that work on that area of Scotland. And I think they are looking at eradicating rats. There's some other projects as well that are eradicating ferrets. Its stoats are more sort of mainland Scotland that they are usually native to. A lot of islands don't really have any like terrestrial mammals so that the wildlife on there can't cope with having predators like that.
Sure. So how can I, the sort of nitty gritty, how does it work then? You go out looking. Could you explain to me the very basics of it? You go out with your dogs looking for stoats, and what happens?
So the dogs weren't introduced into the project until 2022. Initially, we have another team of trappers as well that are really vital to the project. So initially, traps were put out. These traps are called DOC 200 traps, and they are as humane as possible, and they kill instantly. So there's over 8,000 traps across Orkney and the islands. So initially, the first part of the project was deploying all of these traps, and there was that many stoats around. You didn't need a dog. You could see all of the signs of stoats, and they were easier to catch. So the dogs are becoming more and more important the further down the project we go. So the dogs are trained to detect stoat scat, so they're looking for stoat poo. And when they find stoat poo, they do an indication, which is them sitting down very, very still and staring at the stoat poo while we go and collect the poo. And then we also look at where we found the scat, and we collect data, and that data gets passed back to the trap team. And then the trap team, what they do is they deploy maybe additional traps or move the traps following the dog search. So quite a lot of the time as well, if we've gone out and not found any signs of stoats, that's also really, really important data for the trappers as well, because that's showing a huge area that we know stoats aren't present. So finding the presence of stoats and the non-presence of stoats is super important as well. And a lot of the sightings that we get are based on the public. So we do really rely on the public, especially during the tourist season. We do encourage people that if you see any stoats or signs of stoats to let us know. And then the team can go out and do the appropriate technique that's needed at the time to try and catch the stoats.
I see. That was a fundamental and perhaps stupid misunderstanding of mine. That I thought that I was imagining the dogs actually sort of catching these stoats, but no, they're just detecting them, and then you trap them.
So conservation dogs, they are quite new in the conservation sector. Detection dogs, they've been around for a very long time in drug detection, bomb detection, but they're very, very new in the conservation sector. It's absolutely incredible what a dog is capable of doing, and it's amazing that we can use them to their full abilities in a project like this. But because they're working with endangered animals, so Orkney actually supports nationally and internationally important populations of birds like curlews, puffins and hen harriers. We actually have 20% of UK's breeding population of hen harriers. So a lot of the time the dogs have to be really passive. So we train them as much as possible to be really calm, really passive. A lot of the time we're searching across farmland. We really need good relationship with landowners because we are crossing their farmland and their boundaries. And a lot of Orkney has got a lot of agricultural land and a lot of cattle farming and sheep farming. So we have to ensure that our dogs are very calm and not spooked by sheep or cattle, and also not going to harm any of the livestock as well. Because it's quite a tricky project. A lot of people have negative views on things like eradication projects. We always have to be as transparent as possible. So if there are any incidences with our dogs or anything like that, we will be as transparent as possible, letting the public know if we've had any incidences, and the landowners as well.
Right. So that's interesting. What kind of reasons are there that people are against it? What's their point of view?
It's just an understanding of conservation and how important it is, and how invasive species do affect wildlife. Invasive predators are responsible for 60% of all island extinctions worldwide. And the problem is because we are killing the stoats, and we're not doing something like a translocation project. Sometimes it's trying to get people to understand that these invasive predators do need fully eradicating, and it's just a bit of an explanation on kind of the positive sides of projects like this.
Yeah.
It doesn't help that stoats are really cute looking as well. They are very small. And they have very sweet little tails as well. But they are just such successful predators, and they're really agile and adaptable.
Yeah.
So they're doing really, really well in Orkney.
It's always like one of those nature programs you watch. If the program's about foxes, then you desperately don't want them to starve to death. But if the program's about rabbits, or then you really don't want them to catch. So yes, but ultimately, yes, I can see you can't be trying to keep everything alive, can you? Because it doesn't work like that. If they thrive, it's to the detriment of everything else and affects the whole chain, right?
Definitely, and it affects what makes Orkney the Orkney Islands as well, and why everyone comes to visit. So the project also does monitoring as well. So they monitor the bird and vole populations across about 100 sites across Orkney, and it's just to try and get to understand how the wildlife's getting on and if there's any signs of recovery. And actually, since 2022, vole numbers have increased and they've actually doubled. And hen harrier chicks has also increased from 60 to 160 chicks in just 2 years. So it just shows what a difference the eradication project is already making.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So can we talk a little bit about the dogs then, and particularly your dogs in this context? They were provided for you when you arrived. You didn't bring your own dogs. How does it all work?
Yeah, so the dogs are owned by the Orkney Native Wildlife Project. So they are project dogs. Luckily, we do get to house them. So my dog does live with me, and usually right at the very beginning, you are paired up with a dog that you think is going to be most suitable to you, and you will get the opportunity as well to spend a bit of time with that dog and just see how you get on working together. So I have a Springer Spaniel. Her name is Skye. She's 3 years old now.
Is it hard to? I mean, if you're sorry, I've got to try and reword this, find the right way of phrasing it so it doesn't so insensitive. But you are gonna, depending on how long you stay there. But what I'm saying is, you know what I'm saying.
Have I got attached? Is what you're trying to ask.
Yeah, you. One of the factors of why you can't leave is if you left, you'd have to leave behind Skye, right?
Yes, I would. Yeah, because she is owned by.
She's not yours.
So no, she's not mine.
Is that hard? Do you have to try and think about that, or do you just let yourself go and, well, I'm here now? And
so initially, when I first started, I did try and put that barrier and that wall up because I thought she isn't my dog. I don't want to get too attached at all. But it's very, very difficult in the role that you're in as a dog handler to not get attached, because in a way I have more of a bond with her than I do my personal dog, because we are so intertwined with the way that we work. I can read her body language so well. She can read my body language so well. When we're out working, I don't even need to use anything verbal. We can just get on with the way that we are moving together. So it's very hard not to build up a bond. And the best way to have a relationship with your working dog is that bond. The stronger that the bond is, the better that you are when you're out working together.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you say you brought your other dogs with you?
I have.
You have other
dogs? I have
dogs?
Rupert, the French Bulldog, here as well. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And what does Rupert think of the move and the new companion?
He's really enjoyed it. He sometimes joins us on group dog walks. So we have 10 project dogs all together, and they are mostly Springer Spaniels. And for some reason, this project seems to love liver and white Spaniels, so you can't tell them all apart sometimes. And we also have a couple of Labradors on the project and a Sprocker. So quite often we might go out on a group dog walk, and Rupert's quite entertaining on the group dog walk when all the Spaniels are running around and he's just looking at them thinking, oh, dear. But no, he's very adaptable. They do get on very well.
Oh, good. That's lovely. So could you tell us about a sort of typical day then? Is there such a thing as a typical day?
Not really, because we are very dependent on the weather. I would say one of the most challenging things about this job and about being in Orkney is the wind. Sometimes it's absolutely relentless. It can get up to over 100 miles an hour. And it's rare that we have a day that's not windy. And the dogs are just absolutely incredible, the conditions that they can work in. I would say they're probably one of the hardest working dogs, not just in the UK, in the world, with the terrain and the conditions that they work in. When they are detecting scent, you want the most calm, perfect weather conditions. So we do limit when they can go out. So if the wind is usually above 45 miles an hour, and there's quite a lot of heavy rain as well, we don't tend to go out because it just makes it very difficult for the dogs to pick up any scent picture at all. And also they may pick up a few things when they're out and about, but you don't know how much you're missing with those weather conditions and things as well. So it can be quite difficult in the winter when you're getting a couple of days worth of wind and you're very restricted in going out with the dog. So I'd say that's probably one of the negative things about here. But then it does make you take full advantage of the good weather when you have it. So a typical day usually start off, and Skye's breakfast takes a little while because she has lots of supplements. She uses quite a lot of her energy throughout the day. So she needs a lot of supplements to make sure she's maintaining her energy. And then after breakfast...
so what time's that? Sorry.
So breakfast is usually about 6 a.m.
Okay.
Just to make sure that if she's out searching early in the morning, that she's digested her food. So she'll usually have a breakfast, and then I will get ready for my day. And then our day starts sometimes between 8 and 9 o'clock. And we will go out and find an area to search across Orkney. So I work across West Mainland. A lot of people think Orkney is small. I thought it was small. And then when I arrived here and saw the extent of just one of the moorlands, it can be quite scary realizing how much area we've got to cover. And really, we want the dogs to be able to have searched pretty much 100% of the island. Usually I'll plan my search. So we'll search in a transect. So we'll go up and down in lines. And we'll sometimes search between 4 to 6 hours a day. And then once we've finished our search, Skye will usually have her lunch and then have a nice nap. And then I can get on with various other things with my job. And then usually in the afternoon, we might do a little bit of training or something like that. And then on her rest days, she'll usually have continuation training. And she loves the days that she gets continuation training because it's just like going to a theme park for her. She finds it so fun because she knows what she needs to do on those days. And it's just a chance for her to have a little bit of fun as well as making sure that she's doing well with her training.
Tell us about those days then. What does that entail, her continuation training?
So sometimes we go to a local horse riding centre and we might set up, it looks like it's a bit of an obstacle course. We'll put loads of various items down and we'll hide Kong. So the dog toy, the red dog toy, we use quite a lot. So before the dog gets imprinted on a scent, it gets imprinted on Kong. And that's so we can use it out and about when we're not finding any scent, Stoat signs or scent. The dog might lose its drive a little bit, and we don't want the dog to lose its drive at all. So if we're not getting any finds when we're actually out live working, we can hide the Kong then, and then she can still get her reward and feel really happy that she's found something. So usually on the days that we're doing the continuation training, we use the Kong. So we might hide the Kong out in some of the obstacles, and she has to go around and sniff all the obstacles and find the Kong.
And is the Kong enough? Do you have to put treats in it? Is she food driven or?
It's very, very dependent on the dog, and the training changes, and you do have to adapt your training dependent on your dog's behaviour and what your dog finds the best thing in the world. So you do have to find that little item that they're like, oh, I would do absolutely anything for. And Skye's quite a nice all-rounder. She definitely likes her treats. She does like just a generic ball. And then also when she's feeling a bit sorry for herself sometimes, she will like a teddy just to hold in her mouth sometimes.
Oh.
So she likes a nice variation of toys. And we do have to make sure that that's something, it's quite an entertaining part of the job. We do a toy selection sometimes with the dogs. So we need to make sure that, like us, our tastes change and the things that we enjoy change. And it's the exact same with the dog. So we have to make sure every so often we get the opportunity to do a bit of a toy selection with them, and change up the way that we reward the way that we reward them and play with them as well.
Yeah, it's just funny, isn't it? How they have just children, their favourites. We've got a little labradoodle downstairs. Some toys, just no interest with them. They may as well be just any inanimate object. Other toys very much likes them, but likes to get the squeak out. That it's a sort of surgical incision. Remove the squeak. Doesn't really destroy the toy, just a very small hole. Get the squeak out, and then there's a couple. There's like Teddy, who's just like hers, and she doesn't want to destroy that, and she likes to sleep with that one. It's very cute. But so you're saying that no days are the same. Have you had any particular adventurous experiences? Any days out when or maybe the weather was crazy or something happened? Or
yeah, a couple of things actually. So one of my favourite parts of the job is the cliff work. So some of the cliffs up here are the large. We've got one of the largest cliff faces in the UK, which is St John's Cliff, which I think is about 350 metres on the island of Hoy.
God.
And obviously, being an island, we're just absolutely surrounded by the cliffs and the coast. So I think they're my favourite kind of searches that we do. They're very intense. They're very mentally draining and physically draining because most of the time when we're on the mainland, Skye is off lead searching. But when we're at the cliff work, I have to work her on what we call a long line. So that's when our relationship really, really shines. And that's when you really have to know your dog and know your dog's body language when you're working on the cliffs. Because as soon as you accidentally tug on the lead, they might actually be smelling the stoat scat. And if you pull on the lead, they might think that you want to pull them away from that scent. So it can sometimes really confuse them. So you really need to make sure that you know your dog's body language, and you have to be really quick at pulling the lead in and giving them enough lead and things as well, and just making sure that you are protecting them on the edge of the cliff, because we work right to the very edge of the cliff. That's where the seabird eggs are. So very often Skye's nose is pretty much off a cliff edge. So we do have to be really, really careful with that and just on our feet all of the time. But it's a really exhilarating experience, and you just feel so connected to your dog. And then I think my other favourite part of the job is actually the biosecurity side of things. So in the winter time, we head off to some of the islands that are confirmed as being stoat free, and we go out and search any areas that look like ideal habitat for stoats. But what I find is really powerful is that we know to this point there's no stoats on the island, but we're putting 100% effort into finding something that we hope to never find. And I find that quite powerful. And just the day is really nice. You get to go out on the ferry with the dog. Skye has a life jacket on. You get to go out and experience some of the islands. Some of them I've been to, like Grahamsea is one of my favourite islands. There's only 22 people on there.
Wow.
And there's a huge fin whale carcass on there and a coral beach and things. And you just get to explore the whole of that island with just you and your dog. So I find those days really, really beautiful and quite powerful.
Sounds like you're being paid to do a job that many people would pay thousands to do as their holiday, you know.
Definitely. We get to explore the crooks and crannies of Orkney that some of the locals don't even get to explore, because we need to make sure we're covering most of the island when we're out on these searches. Yeah,
absolutely amazing. Gosh, I'm so jealous. Okay. Look, I'm aware.
Newts in the ponds. You're doing a great thing for wildlife there. So.
It's not quite so exciting as a blue whale, but yeah. Well, I've already tried to ask you, but I'll ask you again. Do you see yourself staying there, or other? Let's put it another way. What other places would you hypothetically maybe like to? Where would you like to live or work?
I have really, really enjoyed working on eradication projects and working on island projects. I find the wildlife on islands so fascinating. Most of the wildlife here have had to adapt to the terrain here, adapt to the island life. So I would definitely like to explore some more islands. And New Zealand is one of the big islands that I've worked on biosecurity for quite a few years. And I'd be quite interested in learning a lot more about the biosecurity projects and things in New Zealand.
Yeah, I've been to New Zealand, and it's amazing. I mean, I swam with seals there and sharks, and most of the most amazing things I've done in my life happened in a sort of 2-month period in New Zealand. It is an absolutely extraordinary place.
I think it's great. We've got a lot to learn from New Zealand. Like the biosecurity is actually part of the sort of government structure and things there. it's something that they encourage everyone to do in New Zealand. And I think biosecurity here in the UK, we've got a little way to go, and it's just building up that knowledge of how important biosecurity actually is to safeguard our wildlife.
Look, that was absolutely fantastic, Chantel. So interesting. I could ask you another hour's questions, I'm sure, but I will let you go. Get back to your dogs.
Well, you're very welcome to meet Skye if you'd like to quickly meet Skye.
Oh, yes, please. Can we?
Yeah, Skye.
Yeah.
Come on then.
Oh my goodness. What a lovely. Oh my goodness.
This is.
Hello, Skye. What a beauty.
Good girl.
Oh, that's lovely. What's the orange collar? Is it a special collar, or is that just a normal collar?
Yeah, just a normal collar. Yeah, orange is sort of the project color. We try and make sure all the dogs are in orange. They do wear harnesses that have got conservation detection dogs on, and usually we use the harness as their sign that they're about to work. So similar to guide dogs, as soon as they have the harness on, they know that they're working.
Right. When you have a weekend, or you have the weekends off, right? Is it Monday to Friday job?
Monday to Friday, yeah.
Yeah. So at the weekend, when you take Skye for a walk, does she sorry, this might be a really stupid question. Is she aware that she's not working? When you go for a walk, is she always looking for? Yeah. She's always looking for.
She never just walks, but she works all of the time. So that means, in a way, I'm always having to work when I'm on a walk, because if I'm seeing any stoat scat, I still have to collect the data and pass that data on. So I do always have my work phone with me, a pot with me, just to make sure I'm always collecting the stoat scat and stuff. Sometimes she does switch off if we go to the beach. She'll switch off a little bit and throw a ball. But every other time she's constantly working. I've taken her down south over Christmas last year. And she wasn't a huge fan of being off the island. So I try not to take her off the island. She might go and live with another handler because she's just very confused that where I live back down south, there's no stoats. So she's very confused when she's out on a walk. And especially being in woodland, we don't have many trees at all, very few amount of trees in Orkney. So even being around woodland, she was very like, this habitat's very strange.
Really? That's fascinating. So when you mentioned that you go away for weddings and things, so when that happens, Skye stays on the island and someone else, she's still working, but with somebody else?
Yeah, so just the way these dogs are, they need the work. They need that mental stimulation all of the time. So usually if we go off island, we'll give the dogs to another handler and vice versa. If I've got a handler on my team that's going on holiday, I might take their dog as well for a little while and work them too.
Oh, okay. Fantastic. So thank you ever so much, Chantel. Absolutely fascinating.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.